Oh, okay. Welcome to the August 17th, 2016 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. At this time, I would request that everyone please turn off or mute your cell phones, and then please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Applications heard during tonight's meeting will be voted on by the Planning and Zoning Commission. During the meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendations on the applications will then be submitted to the St. Charles County Council for their final decision on the items. The individual items and bills for these applications are scheduled to be introduced at the Monday, September 12, 2016 County Council meeting. The following documents are introduced as a matter of record for the public hearing and regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Unified Development Ordinance of St. Charles County, including zoning maps. The year 2025 Master Plan for St. Charles County, which includes the year 2025 Future Land Use Plan Map. Okay, just kind of give you a little bit of background on how we run the meetings. What we do is we read the application into the record, and then we ask the staff for an analysis and their recommendations on it. And we then ask questions of the staff. After we've done with that portion of it, we then ask the applicant to come up and they present their case to us. After the applicant has had that opportunity, we then open it up to the public, and people can come up and speak on behalf, for or against, for the whatever is before us. I know there's a lot of people in here, and a couple of these, this one has been before us before. So I want you guys to keep it to 3 minutes, and I will cut you off. So you need to be very succinct on your presentation to us. If it's repeated over and over, it's the same objections. We kind of got it. A couple of them we know already what they're going to be. So please keep those comments as succinct as possible. I'll let everyone speak. So, but we don't want to be here till midnight. We like to get some of this stuff, and there's other business on here we want to get to. After the public hearing, we close it. The commission then has the opportunity to discuss it. After we've done some discussion, we then take a vote. Someone makes a motion on it, and we take a vote for or against. Whether it's approved or denied, it goes to the county council. If it's denied, it still goes to the county council, and they can override our denial. And that's happened. So just kind of keep that in mind. Also approval. So you do have another opportunity. Actually, you're going to have 2 more opportunities to go before the county council on these, except for possibly the preliminary plats. I can't remember on that. So when we get to that, we'll kind of talk about it. So we're going to go ahead and start the meeting. We do have some changes to the agenda, too. I think we have to vote to take something off the table, don't we? So let's get that taken care of.
Somebody flat for Little Creek.
Willow Creek.
Yeah, so can I get a motion to take that off the table?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, first one before us is PUD 16-00002. The applicant is Bax Engineering Company Incorporated. The property owner is Michael Stanford. The current zoning is R1E, Single Family Residential District. The requested amendment is rezoning from R1E, Single Family Residential District, to CO/PUD, Commercial Office District, with a planned unit development overlay district, and R1E PUD, Single Family Residential District, with a planned unit development overlay district, along with approval of the PUD concept plan. Proposed use, a proposed banquet center and 2 single-family residents. The area is 10.25 acres. The location is on the north side of Maclay Road, approximately 400 feet east of St. Peter's Hall Road, and on the east side of St. Peter's Hall Road, approximately 300 feet north of Maclay Road. It's in Council District 5. Staff?
Sure. This is before you tonight. Very similar to how you reviewed it before in June. And I'll tell you, it's before you in order to correct a deficiency in the public notice. During this process, after you made your recommendation, it went to the went to the City County Council, and at their first meeting, we had to inform them that we detected that there was insufficient public notice that we made at the public hearing. And this is, again, this is the official public hearing at this state. So in order to correct that deficiency, make sure we have a clean and correct process, we do need to review this again, take public input, and then at the end of this, you should, as always, you should either recommend for approval with conditions, or denial, and then the county council would have the final say in this. For the benefit of the audience, planning and developments are done in 2 steps, and this is the first step. The first step is approval of a concept plan and also a rezoning. So the concept plan generally shows the layout and the uses and how those uses relate to the neighbors. It's basically determined, can this be a good neighbor? Can it fit into the neighborhood? And that's one of the questions I ask. And so this concept plan, should it be approved by the county council, they would still have to return a second time to this body for what's called a final development plan. And the final development plan would provide a lot of specifics on things like what's the nature of the, is there going to be a berm along the perimeter? Will there be a fence and landscaping, landscaping 25 feet deep, for instance, and what's the nature of that? The lighting, questions about how does the building look? Some of that's been provided as part of this application, but really kind of in advance, but some of it has not. I guess in my mind, some of the factors you may want to think about are, again, this is a little over 10 acres. 10 acres is the minimum for a planned development. It's located within a fully developed area, I would call it, suburban area. You have single-family residential, you have some commercial, you have a sports complex. So this is really like a remainder tract or remainder parcel. It's an old farm tract that's a remainder. That's remained undeveloped. There's a stone house on the property, about 1825. There's a wood frame barn, but it's largely open, and the terrain is somewhat rolling. There's a natural stream that crosses it. I mentioned those 2 factors because the natural amenities of the property, that actually factors in one of the factors that you should think about in terms of planned unit developments. The review standards that you have, they're provided in greater detail in your memo, but I'll just refer to them quickly here. 1, whether the project is in general compliance with the master plan for unincorporated St. Charles County. If you look at it, strictly speaking, the master plan shows low-density residential for this entire area. And so, strictly speaking, the commercial portion of the PUD wouldn't comply with that master plan. The residential portion would. There's 2 single-family residences proposed as part of this. But when you look at it maybe in the larger picture, planned unit developments, by their very nature, they're proposing something that wouldn't normally go there. What you're doing is, with planned unit developments, is like customized zoning. In advance, you both agree upon certain things. The nice thing about planned unit development is that there's enough specifics that there's more predictability in the outcomes, better predictability for the public, for the neighbors, for the public decision makers. And so, again, it's a lot more specific, but it's more flexible than your usual, some people call them cookie cutter zoning district regulations. I would say that, generally speaking, only about 4% of this site would be covered with buildings, and they're 1.5 stories, essentially. So I do think, in character, it's in general compliance with the master plan in that regard, because it's not unusual to have, for instance, institutions or something like that within residentially zoned areas. So, number 2, the compliance with the intent and objectives of the planned unit development portion of the ordinance. Some of the intent and objectives include preserving the natural scenic qualities of open space and utilizing the best potential for site development relating to features like topography, geography, size and shape of the property. You'll probably notice that this is a really unusually shaped piece of property with some portions of it extending behind homes. And so that presents challenges, but that's one reason why the applicant says that the planning and development may work in this situation. Those portions that would be extending behind the homes, they're designating that portion for single-family residential. Number 3, the adequacy of proposed facilities serving the development, including sanitary sewers, water supply, and distribution in recreational areas. This is not some planning development located in an outlying area far away from existing development. It's really almost an infill proposal. And so the utilities are readily available. So that's not a factor. Number 4, the general layout of the internal street system serving the proposed developments and its relationship to the existing transportation system. Actually, this project is not going to include internal streets, but simply private driveways. I would note that the driveways are going to be coming off of 2 arterial streets. They're not going to connect to, I'm sorry if I get the pronunciation wrong, is it Pizzold or Pezzold? But there's a street to the east that would not connect to that. So that I don't believe that it's going to draw commercial traffic through residential neighborhoods, part of this project. Let's see. And then finally, 5, the relationship of land uses within the PUD to each other, and the relationship of the land uses within the PUD with surrounding external land uses. We don't really see any internal conflicts with land uses, although we would note that there may be potentially a conflict with land uses for neighboring land uses, in that the banquet center, according to the drawing, is going to be located about 80 to 90 feet from the nearest residential property line, and roughly, I think about 120 feet from the nearest residence. So there's a concern that there could be potentially conflicts with noise and other factors like that from a banquet center. Now, the applicant says that they intend to use soundproofing in the walls in order to address this, in order to be a good neighbor, and to face the activity side of that building away from those residences, so it's facing out towards the parking lot and facing back towards the arterial roads. So that's how they're intending to address that. Although I did want to note that potential land use conflict. And then 6, compliance with the requirements essentially regarding density. And I mentioned before, it looks like only about 4.4% of the site would be developed with buildings, although the parking area is going to be about 1.3 acres. But I would say the density is not a very high density if you're just looking at buildings. Again, only about 4.4%, 1, maybe 2-story of buildings. So density is not necessarily a factor here in terms of our development standards or recommendations for planning and developments, I don't think. Staff would recommend that a finding that the planning and development proposal, the concept plan and the rezoning would generally conform to the objectives of Section 405.190 and the review standards of Section 405.215, except for the location of the new reception hall or barn as is shown on the concept plan, as it's relatively close to the residential properties to the north and the east. And so consequently, county staff would recommend one of 2 things, either recommend denial of the application or recommend approval condition upon ensuring that that building is some proper distance from the adjoining property lines. Now, we're recommending 200 feet to be perfectly open. There's no magic to that number, 200 feet, but we think that it's a reasonable distance. And we should also, I think the applicant's going to address what that 200 feet would mean to them in terms of meeting that. It does mean that they would have fewer choices on where they could locate the building, so that what they're calling the barn would need to be moved towards the center of the property. But there's some, doing that, I think there would be some benefits in terms of circulation and fewer impacts on neighbors, but it also have impacts on the project itself.
Any questions for staff?
Yeah. Robert?
Yes,
Yeah. As you know, we've seen the applicant several times,
right.
and I have the notes from our last meeting when Ruth proposed it and the 6 conditions. When we passed all this, I also watched the county council meeting. When you spoke, Mr. Ellman asked where did this 200 feet come up with, because he said he couldn't find anything in the UDOs or anything, and you said it was a arbitrary judgment on your part. Is there any flexibility, I know you just mentioned it again, to work this out with the applicant? Because if that's the last, because you
Right.
basically say either the 200 feet or deny it, but rather than draw this out, we've all heard this, we've passed it. Is there a way to mediate this and everybody's going to be happy? Reducing, is it 200 chiseled in stone? Can we modify it, or how do you?
It's not chiseled in stone. That's a recommendation for your consideration. Now, when the very first plan that was turned in, it was slightly closer to the neighboring property, and they moved it in a revised plan, I think about 15 feet away. And then in the revised plan, they addressed, is it 5 of the 6 comments that county staff had before? All of them except for 1.
6, and the 6th one was the 200-foot.
Right,
Right.
right. So all those other comments have been addressed in this new.
Okay, you mentioned it would come back again, so if we pass this again,
Mm-hmm.
without that 200 feet requirement, they're still going to have to come back again for approval, correct? Or,
That's true.
so what difference would it make whether we had the 200 feet in there or not? I would like to leave a little leeway
Right.
to work this out, and if it comes to 185 feet or something, but if you say 200 feet,
Yeah.
you take out a tape measure, it's 200 feet, and sorry, you can't move it over. How would we word that? Because the site plan will come back to us, correct? If it gets passed from county council, then it comes back to us?
Well, what would come back would be the final development plan.
And that would include that distance
That's true.
restriction,
Right,
for
that's
lack of a
true.
better word.
Now, this would set their overall parameters, you might say. So if this would be approved as is, they could locate a building generally in that area as that close. Now, they could come back and they could move it away from farther away, but they could, I guess the bottom line is the final development plan needs to be generally in conformance with the approved concept plan.
I'm trying to find something before we hear from these folks, because it's a lot of the same reiteration of the things we've heard before with noise and traffic and drunkenness and things, but that the noise issue, although they're going to put some sounding board, how do we approve this or disapprove? If we approve it so that it will alleviate some of the problem by putting the structure away from the adjoining residence, if I'm saying that correctly. Trying to find some wording so they're not locked into it, yet it's, when it comes back to us, we still have to approve it.
Could I add on to what Gary said here? By ordinance, what's the minimum? That we understand you're 200 feet, but there's certainly setbacks. Do you know what that would be locked in on the ordinance that you can't
We'll find that.
encroach by whatever?
Yeah.
So let's
But I
get
think
staff
this is
some time
important
to
because
find
that's
those.
one of the issues that came up on,
Yeah.
Okay.
not only the last time, but when that was zoned and they withdrew it as light industrial, when we first heard the applicant.
It's 15 feet rear yard, minimum 15 feet rear yard, so a building, if this were just strictly commercial office zoning, it'd have to
It
be
would
at
be
least 15
15
feet,
feet.
right from the property line, right? Now, given the use, you should think about whether that's sufficient, because again, you've got more flexibility, there's more flexibility on both sides.
Well, but we've seen all this. I think 15 feet are going to make a lot of people angry if it's near their house.
Yeah,
What I'm trying to do is a wording, and maybe from council there, how would we word this so that we have a little, rather than a finite number, 200, if it comes to fruition that, it's 175 by juxtapositioning the building around, so it's less than that 200-foot parameter, and it still would work. Because everybody agreed, I think the concept was good, and, and you gave a speech about the concept plan when this was presented back in June. And when we voted on it, and the 6 conditions you have, but one of the stickling points was that 200 feet, that was condition number 6.
Right. I'm trying to think of a way to condition it other than a specific number of feet. Again, there's 200 feet's not a magic number, but it's a recommendation for you, but you suggested,
I don't
somewhat
know,
less
I'm
than
asking
that.
you, or council, how would we word that?
Yes,
Mr. Hazelwood?
It would be difficult to give the concept plan that moves from you to the county council that kind of flexibility. I think what your contribution to the process this evening would be you do approve or disapprove a concept plan that's been offered by the applicant.
Okay.
Now, I've got to ask Robert or Jan, has the applicant put a number on the concept plan?
There's, as it's shown on the concept plan, it's about 85 feet from the nearest exterior property line.
Okay.
And it's a little bit more on one end of the building and a little bit less on the other.
That's just to the east. To the north, there's
Yeah.
only about 56 feet from this drawing. It would not be possible to have 200 feet going north, from the north boundary and the south boundary.
Be on top of it.
Because when we're talking feet, then you've got to be looking at both the north and south boundary, because it's going to border residential, even though it's their own, and then you've got the east boundary.
In my head, honestly, I was thinking of the east and to the north because the applicants are indicating they're developing a single-family home
In Lot 2,
and to live there, and then, but besides, once the home is built, and someday it's going to get sold, the house is going to get sold to someone else, but at that point, whatever buildings will already be there, so people will be able to see that distance and know about.
Okay. Anything else? They can work on this, and I think we should go ahead and bring the applicant up, let this get started. So if you want to come up, please. Yes. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, letters too. Thank you.
this will take forever.
Okay, let's, 1 second here. All of the communications that were received before and during the previous public hearing is already on the record, so I just want to let people know that. All of that remains on the record and still is. Additionally, we received an opposition letter from Ken Hausman, a letter in support from Rosemary Vogel, and we received, let's see, a protest signed by 96 property owners. And in your packet, you have an abstract of that. You have the names of all of these property owners and what property they represent. And I believe the packet online has the full protest. Is that right, Sheila? Yeah, okay.
Craig, I might add one thing that from the notes of the last meeting, because I see some other people bringing the same thing up. You had stated, I'm reading from the notes from the June meeting, Chairman Craig Fram stated that with a planned unit development, no other commercial businesses will be allowed to be placed on the property without approval or rezoning request, because I saw some of the letters, they said, what happens if they die, sell the property?
Right.
What else is going to go in? So that might answer a few of the questions in advance.
Thank you. Okay. Any other? Thank you. Let's go ahead and bring the applicant up. Raise your right hand for me You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your name and address for the record.
Ruth Choate, 104 Lindy's Landing Court.
Go ahead, Ruth.
I'm not exactly sure how much you want me to go into it. I do want to address the.
Not as much as last time.
Exactly. Really, nothing has changed at all in our plan since the last one, except when you guys approved it 8-1, except for one person moved into the neighborhood and has been going door to door and defaming our character and lying about our project. So that's basically why we have 96 oppositions compared to 1 in the very first time and 3 on the second the PUD. So the one thing that we have addressed all issues that everyone's going to come up here and talk about. The traffic, we're not during traffic hours, as our business won't run during traffic hours. Drunks, we have all the people in place that know how to handle and serve alcohol. Noise, this building is the primary concern for everybody, and we totally understand that and get that. And TSI, who does Powell Hall, Fox Theater, Edward Jones Dome, is doing the soundproofing for this building. They know what they're doing. So that's definitely the biggest concern for everybody, and we're going with the very best company that we could possibly go with. And the last one is property values. And I never was able to answer anybody about property values because I'm not a appraiser, I'm not a real estate agent, but I did call Scott Shipman, and he did give me some very good information to share with everybody tonight. He said if anybody is worried about their property values, let them find even one instance in St. Charles County where their property values went down because they live next to a commercial property. It has never happened. He says, go ahead, look all you want, you will not find it. So that's their number one concern. And the biggest concern that you guys were talking about, our closest neighbor to the event barn where it's sitting right now is 110 feet, and the other neighbor is 115. That's their house, not their property line. So 110 and 115, Larry from Bax can give you those exact measurements again. We've looked on the property to try to see where the barn could go at 200 feet, and I don't think it's possible. Larry can talk to you about that if you have any other questions about that, because he's run all the parameters. So that's the final stipulation in the council, or the staff recommending it, was at 200 feet, but I don't think it's possible. And the number one thing to let you guys know tonight is by moving that event space away from where we have it on the plan, that does not move the center of the activity, because the stone house will always be the center of activity at the property. So all that does is move the largest, best barrier away from the two closest neighbors if we move that event barn. So that's the number one thing to remember about moving that barn is now people will be able to see those neighbors, and those neighbors will be able to see people if we move it. So if we do the very best thing that we can and have that whole backside be storage, have TSI soundproof it, and bring everything to the center of the activity where the stone house is, because we can't move that. It's where it is. So that would be our number one concern with why we would want to leave it there. And I guess in closing, before I have to answer anybody rebuttal, if you're against our rezoning, you are for clear cutting of the trees, and who knows what will happen with the stone house. That's the number one thing everybody needs to know, because I think they're confused about that. I think they feel like if we do not get this rezoning, that the land in this house, in the guest house and the barn, will stay exactly how it's been for 200 years. That is not the case. It's 2016. It's not feasible for two people to own this large piece of property financially or physically, anything else. So that's not the case. If you're not for the rezoning, you are for clear cutting of the trees, and who knows what will happen with the
All right,
stone house.
Ruth.
Thanks.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we're going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. One thing you need to know is when you come up to speak, make sure you fill out a speaker's card so we can get you on the record that way also. And I'm going to go ahead and open up to the public. Who wants to come up first? Come on up. Again, keep it to 3 minutes, and don't throw rocks.
I'm not going to throw a rock.
Raise your right hand for me, please. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address for the record.
Mike Geiger, 26 Park Charles South. For the record, I've been here for 9 years at Park Charles. I'm not new. I've been in St. Charles County for over 35 years. My background is in the wedding industry. I'm the co-founder of St. Louis Best Bridal Magazine. I did that 13 years ago for Pulitzer Publishing. The last 10 years, I've been an event supplier rep. I work with more than 120 event venues. St. Charles County has several. Heart of St. Charles, Steggins Convention Center, Christie. They're all in commercial zones, not in the middle neighborhoods. There's a reason. This is all you're putting in, concrete. This place has been talked about how beautiful it is. It is. It's absolutely gorgeous. But you're going to turn it into this, concrete in a building. All that's going to be gone. It's absolutely the wrong location. When you do spot zoning, which this is, it's supposed to be beneficial to the neighborhood. Legal spot zoning, for example, is HUCS. It provides food, gas, shelter, places for the children to go, families to go. This provides nothing for the neighborhood. So this would make it illegal spot zoning. At 500 people, we have been told, hey, you never see a wedding for 500 people. That's right, you see 2 weddings at 250 each. I have set up an awful lot of venues where I put 1 photo booth on one side of the building and 1 photo booth on the other side of the building, and we had 2 weddings and the parking lot was full. So that's nonsense. Regarding the hotels, that's for the few out-of-town guests that happen to be here. There aren't that many shuttles, there won't be that much going on, and it won't be that many people coming in from out of town. So you're still going to have the majority of the people here. I've heard about how that we have the staff left over from the columns. The columns have been gone for 2 years. There's no staff. Doug Risch at DMR took them if they were worth taking. That is nonsense as well. I know Joan Long. I know Andrea from Sess and Judy's. They do an absolutely wonderful job. I would hire them to cater anything. However, they are not bartenders. They are not running a bar. They are not making sure that people are overserved or not overserved. That is not their job. The Elks, we have been told, or they have been there. Elks are part of your commercial program. They are not rezoning. They have a very, very little hall. They don't have to fill that facility 7 days a week in order to cover all of their expenses. Most of my utility places, most of my conference centers and banquet centers are now going to 75% commercial because the wedding industry is not what it used to be. The parking lot shows 137 spaces. At 500 people, you need 200 spaces. You're 60 short. All you're going to do is fill it back up with concrete. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room wants to come speak? Come on up. Raise your right hand for me, please. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And state your name and address for the record.
Ronald Roark. I live at 4305 McClay Road.
Go ahead, Ronald.
And if you guys make this commercial, where does that stop at? I mean, Huck's is a great place, like he said, for kids to go. Where does this, I mean, we're going to have drunks roaming the woods out there? What's going to stop the drunks?
Well, that'd be the property owner having to do that, and
Yeah,
police.
but they ain't going to do it. Unless they put a 10-foot fence around the whole property. I mean, that's the only way you're going to stop them.
Okay.
So,
Is that
thank
your
you.
answer? You bet. Come on up, sir. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
Frank Reese, number 3 Linda Lane.
Go ahead, Frank.
We have lived at 3 Linda Lane for 21 years, where we live is a reasonably quiet area. But if this proposal passes, everyone in the subdivision will be affected. Our property value will probably go down. There will be noise, people milling around, more traffic on St. Peter's Howe Road and McClay. There is already more on more noise from property clearing these 2 roads. We have quite a few retired people in the area. Let this remain residential. So I hope you people will vote against this.
Thank you.
100%.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room wants to come before us? Raise your right hand for me. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record?
I'm Katie Portillo. This is my brother Greg Portillo. Our parents are divorced, so we live between 2521 Trenton Station, St. Charles, and 2345 McClay Road. Still trying to learn that new address.
If the plan
This is
goes
for-
as requested, I will hear the music of guests until after 11 p.m. from my bedroom window, and that is not fair. I need my sleep to stay healthy. Please do not rezone this property. It was zoned low density, single family, residential for several reasons. I am one of those reasons.
Our bedroom window backs up, I don't know what angle, but we're catty corner from the property, so, thank you.
That it? Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else in the room wants to speak on this matter? Looks like somebody's going to win.
Oh, okay.
Raise your right hand for me, sir. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record?
Jim Strite, 456 Chelsea Drive, St. Charles.
Go ahead, Jim.
Does this work?
Does? You can just put it on there. They'll bring it up on the screen.
Okay, first of all, thank you for your service, all of you. I know it takes extra time and effort for you to sit on the board, and we appreciate you listening to all of our neighbors here. I'm trustee and a treasurer of a homeowners association for Spring Valley Woods, and we've got 207 homes within a mile and a half of this venue. And I'm speaking because it isn't just the people who live around the venue that get impacted by this. And I hope to share with you on how this impacts our subdivision, okay? How do I?
Just leave it there. They'll bring it up on the screen.
Oh,
So
okay.
you need to turn it.
Okay,
There you go.
okay. All right, what I have here, first of all, we're opposed to the rezoning of this wedding venue or banquet venue, whatever. As we understand, 500 people are possible, 239 parking spaces, so you know an idea of how many cars. We're opposed to it because of the increased traffic through our subdivision, both going to the venue and coming back after some have partaken of some liquor. And what I've got here is Google Maps. And if you look.
You need to stay up on the microphone,
Oh,
please.
okay.
I'm sorry. Just stay up on the microphone. You can point to
Yeah.
it.
Okay. This is the intersection of Jungerman Road and Highway 94. And I just ran this from Coles across the street just so I'd have a point on how's the quickest way to get to the venue at 4401 McClay Road. And if you look at Google Maps, the quickest way and the shortest way is going through the middle here, through Woodstream, through our subdivision. Yeah, it's a short distance, but it's a minute quicker than the other two routes, and it's 2 miles short versus 2.3 or 2.8 miles. So anyone who uses a GPS or whatever are very likely going to get that direction to the venue, okay, if they're coming off of 94 or anything close to it. I mentioned that, and you'll see this section here that's highlighted in yellow. That's what goes through our subdivision. It's not a straight line. There's a lot of curves. And not only would it increase traffic, but there's a safety factor involved, especially coming back, where someone may be impaired. On this half-mile stretch that you see in yellow here, okay, there's 4 curves, as you can see, and they're very dangerous. I'm going to put another one up that's a little bit bigger, so just showing that half mile. First of all, coming off of the service road here, there's a real hard, sharp turn that even if you're middle of the day, there's a potential for a fender bender coming out of there. Then you go down around this curve, and if you're not familiar with that curve, it's very easy to get into the left lane if you're going, or and potentially cause an incident. You see there's another curve coming, and then there's the last curve here, okay? So that's a safety problem that we're addressing, all right? We're trying to address with St. Charles County. But for this purpose, I wanted to make sure that you understand it isn't just the local venue. It impacts other neighborhoods, and it will impact ours. Besides the extra noise and potential trash and whatever, it has a long-term impact, okay? And you have an important decision here. It isn't just the short-term impact. It's the long-term impact, and I reference this because we've just gone through a major effort with St. Charles County, and they're going to do something about it. Right along here, there's a culvert that's 6 feet by 10 feet. 30 years ago, when our subdivision was developed, that wasn't a problem. As the buildings and everything got approved and zoned for commercial and the whole works over that time, it's caused a water problem, and they're now going to increase that to a 10 by 14 culvert. That's over 2.3 times as big. This is what happens when little decisions compound over time, and that's what I see happening here with this venue. It sounds good. They say they're going to do this to start, but what happens 1, 2, 5, 10 years down the road, okay, when things don't go as well? So I'd like you to consider that it's might be a small decision now, an impact, but it has a long-term impact.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. You want to come up? Raise your right hand. Raise
My
your
name
hand.
is
You
Melissa
swear-
Richardson.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And state your name and address for the record?
Melissa Richardson, 3 Pines Drive.
Go ahead, Melissa.
The Standard State Zoning Enabling Act states all such regulations shall be uniform for each class throughout the district. The size of the parcel is not the sole defining characteristic. Rezoning this property to anything other than residential will be unjustified special treatment that only benefits the owners, while undermining the rights of adjacent and surrounding properties, deviating from all previous council and zoning plans put into place for a reason. The owners sent letters out to neighbors, now trying to describe this as a community center, other than what it is, a banquet center, reception hall for rent for any occasion. They state their wishes would be to keep this a park-like setting. How is paving the parking lot for over 200-plus cars keeping this in park-like setting? They say it will accommodate to up to 500, but usually not have that many. Are they going to turn away business if a party of 500 comes? Doubtful. Yes, most venues don't have 500. The reason is, most don't hold 500. Once a venue is able to accommodate, it will be utilized. It's stated this business will run Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we won't experience any traffic at these times. Huh. I guess they've never sat through ball field tournaments, gymnastics meetings, Flipside, St. Peter's Howell. People work nights, evenings, and weekends. It will affect some of us. Calling this a community center is an insult to our community. It does not benefit anyone other than the owners and a few contractors that are making a quick buck building it. Allowing this change will result in blatant spot zoning. Your community does not want this. It has been said 40 or 60 new homes could be built. That would be welcome. We would love to have new neighbors. They will not have guests of 200. There will not be a paved parking lot, lights, traffic. Yes, there is commercial on St. Peter's Howell. It was there when we moved in, not in the middle of homes. We do not want or need more. Usually when people buy homes, they intend on living in them. If they wish not to live here, please sell the property to somebody who would love to live there. There is plenty of commercial undeveloped areas to consider a banquet center. If it's about money, sell your lots for residents to build. We have rights to peace and quiet. We want to keep this area as it is. Please keep this residential and ask yourself, would you want this venue in your backyard? You're saying 200 feet for a building. There's no way that the parking lot will be 200 feet. There will still be noise from cars. There will still be lights. It will affect us all. Please vote no.
Thank you. Anybody else wants to come up before us? Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And state your name and address for the record?
My name is Lisa Portilla. I live at 4325 Maclay Road.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I moved into St. Charles in 1990, and I have lived here ever since then. These are the minutes from the meeting of the P&Z meeting on July 11th, and I quote, "At time of this writing, the Planning and Zoning Division recommends that this zoning request and concept plan be denied. Since the property is surrounded by a developed residential neighborhood, the intensity and current layout of this use would allow land use conflicts. Additionally, the proposed zoning is not in compliance with the 2025 land use plan and would allow the introduction of commercial land uses in a way which could be incompatible with the adjacent residences. Every single word of that is still valid and still true tonight. Spot zoning is the application of zoning to a specific parcel or parcels of land within a larger zoned area when the rezoning is usually at odds with the city's master plan and current zoning restrictions. Spot zoning may be ruled invalid as an arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable treatment of a limited parcel of land. While zoning regulates the land use in whole districts, spot zoning makes unjustified exceptions for a parcel or parcels within a district. In general, spot zoning is recognized as a legitimate exception to zoning. The business owner either seeks a permit to use his land differently than presented under the local zoning law, or he requests that the zoning ordinance be changed for his intended activity. Therefore, he must get the approval of his local governmental agency before being granted the spot zoning exception. However, in some areas of the country, the courts have found spot zoning illegal on the ground that it is incompatible with existing land use zoning or with the overall community zoning plan. Whether the exception carved out is reasonable and supported by the particular facts often turns on public interest, the effect spot zoning has on the current uses of neighboring properties, and any ramifications created by the zoning. This is my 5th meeting regarding this rezoning. I have heard one resident, speak in favor of it. There are over 250 individual letters of opposition registered with the county to this proposal so far. Probably more, because that was a late count. An additional 900 protests by homeowners have additionally been submitted. Quiet enjoyment is a real thing. It has been upheld by the Missouri Supreme Court. We don't want this in our backyards. Gentlemen, I don't think you'd vote to put this in your backyards either. Please don't rezone this land. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Anybody else? Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And would you state your name and address for the record?
Richard Hillscamp, 2835 St. Peter's Howe Road.
Go ahead, Richard.
I'm opposed to this, and there's several issues. I buy, and part of my business, I buy and sell rehab houses here in St. Peter, St. Charles. It's perception, whether it's true or not, that there's going to be a bunch of noise and everything else happening there in the evenings. When people drive up and they see a big building, a big 8-foot wall, and all that activity, it means less people are going to be interested in that particular area or house. I have a house right now on the corner of Connemara and Mexico and Drover's Crossing, and people come by and they go ahead and make an appointment to see the house. The realtor calls, makes an appointment, and then they drive ahead of time to scout it out, and they see it's on the corner of Mexico, and they cancel the appointment. I've had to keep dropping that price down, and it's still on the market, but it's perception. Whether it's true or not about the noise and everything else, people will not want to pay as much money for an area that has all this stuff built around it. Another issue is the Brown Road coming down. That's called, as the county calls, an unnamed road. I want to know what's going to happen to that. It's being cut off from the rest of the property. Mike and Ruth own that, and they're supposed to maintain it, but they have done zero for that part of the road. They have done zero for it. My front door neighbor and myself have tried to keep it up, grade it and things. But when it's cut off, if this goes through, I think they're just going to abandon it unless they can have something written in the planning and zoning. I don't think they're going to maintain it. The St. Charles County needs to take it over. There's 8 or 9 taxpayers that are on that road. They need to take it over. Someone needs to maintain it. Legally, we're not supposed to even be messing with it, but we are because no one takes care of it. People have to get up to their houses there. I believe it's called a private domain road. But anyway, I guess that's all I need to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person, come on up. Raise your right hand. you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And state your name and address for the record.
I'm Angela McBride. I live at 709 Sally Road in West Alton, Missouri, which is St. Charles County. I just want to kind of give you a little background. I am from Texas, and now I live in Missouri. I've been a licensed vocational nurse since 1994. Since 1994, probably all but 2 years I've worked home health. Home health being pediatric or geriatric, anything in between. If you're my boss and you tell me I need you to go work at such and such house, here's the address, I can choose whether I go in that neighborhood or not. It's my prerogative because is it safe? Is it not? There are several houses that nurses will not go to because when they drive by at 12 o'clock at night to go on that shift, it doesn't look safe. They have to park down the road because there's not anywhere to park right by the house. I'm not saying there's not gonna be enough parking for this place. I'm just giving you, for instance. There are things that come up at night that it scares you. You're alone, you're a woman. Getting out at night, you're going in. There could be people coming by that, you're scared of. So I'm just wanting you to know that this is a neighborhood where people, have to have services other than just living. And I do work in that neighborhood. And it could potentially become a place where I don't want to work because I have to, I have children, I have a family, and I have to be protected. And, that's been my only issue, is that. And I just, want y'all to be aware of that because most people don't realize that the nurse has the choice to say no, as well as the physical therapist, the occupational therapist, any services that provide for people that need services, they can say no because it's their safety. And, I know that's what a lot of people are saying is, what if? Well, think about that side of the situation, not just a personal. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else wants to speak on this? Raise your right hand for me, please. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
My name is Rick Cannon. I live at 4223 Weatherton Place. I'm a 33-year resident of Spring Valley Woods subdivision, and I oppose this plan, and I'll give you my reasons specifically. The primary street of our subdivision is Wood Stream Drive. The road is used as a cut-through for drivers from St. Peter's Parkway to Maclay Road, and every week I pick up a bag or more of trash the drivers throw out the windows along the entrance area of our subdivision. Our subdivision does not see this problem occurring on secondary streets, leading to the conclusion that the trash is being discarded by drivers who do not live in the subdivision, rather those who are just passing through. My concern is that we will see an increase in trash from those using Wood Stream as a cut-through to get to an event at the Powell Mansion. The trash may seem trivial, but it does affect the property values in our subdivision and requires ongoing and probably increased vigilance if this is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Anybody else in the room wants to speak on this matter? Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
My name's Jackie Ferber. I live at 120 Biddeford North Court in Spring Valley Woods subdivision.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Would it be possible to put the other diagram that you had up earlier? Okay, so if you look at this diagram, the two major roads are Maclay Road and St. Peter's Howell Road. And I had the opportunity to speak with Ron Sage, who's an engineer for the county, for the highway department. And specifically what I was asking him for was statistics on daily traffic. And he was able to give me the statistics from June 2015. And specifically on St. Peter's Hall Road on June 15th, 2015, the average daily traffic, depending on which way you're going, was anywhere from 10 to 13,000 cars. Maclay Road sees equal numbers, probably not as high as 10,000, but I had a statistic from about 10 years ago that said 7,000. So you can imagine the traffic that we deal with already. Specifically, our subdivision also is a cut through, as we've tried to express to you. There is really not an opportunity where you can address the traffic flow at that intersection. I invite you, if you haven't, to go there and look at it multiple times a day. We have a bus depot for Francis Howell. We have the St. Peter's baseball fields. We have the Elk Lodge. We have Huck's. Any evening, it's a nightmare trying to get through that corridor. Yes, you can say, well, it's a weekend event. However, a weekend event is a Friday night traffic. You know well, as I do, that the traffic flow is horrific. If you look at the weekend, those numbers are likely to go up because you're not going to work for 8 hours a day. You are back and forth to the grocery store, to the gymnastics, to St. Peter's baseball fields, whatever it may be. You can't put a stop sign there, or a stoplight there. We already have a stoplight. The location of this property doesn't allow where you can put additional traffic levers in to help the situation. I invite you to think about your subdivision. Do you really want 13,000 cars going by your subdivision and that amount to increase by up to 500 cars? Put yourself in our place. Look beyond tax dollars. Look beyond the revenue. This honestly is why Americans are getting frustrated, because we voice our opinion and we say, no, please don't. And it seems like the will of people like you oftentimes is just, we're going to do it in spite of. I invite you to not have that in spite of attitude. I invite you to say no. Join us. They can have a wedding venue. It doesn't have to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you. Anybody else wants to speak on this matter? And if you've got something new, too, remember, don't bring up the same old stuff. So, raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
Jennifer Knaust. I live at 4307 Maclay.
Jennifer, go ahead.
They said that it would not affect our property value. That's true. Having a venue like that would not affect our property value. It will affect our saleability. I actually work in the mortgage business, and some of those properties would actually be considered adverse. You actually have to get comparables that match that type of property. Some of those will actually be 3-sided by commercial, and mortgage companies won't lend on that. So some of these properties would actually be not mortgageable. You could actually cause these people to not be able to refinance their house, not be able to sell it because the people could not get a mortgage. You could actually be very devastating to these people because it could really affect them. I mean, if you can't refinance your house, that's huge. If you can't sell your house because the person trying to buy it can't get a mortgage because somebody else rezoned around you, that's a pretty big deal. So no, it will not affect our property values, but it actually could cause people not to be able to sell their house and not be able to get a mortgage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you're speaking again, don't forget to fill out a speaker's card before you leave. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
Glenn Gardner, 609 Oregon Trail Drive.
It's Glenn?
Glenn.
Okay,
yes.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
All right, I lived in the area for 50 years, St. Charles County. I lived on Maclay Road for 30. For 27 years, I've seen this property in shambles. For the last 3 years, it's became beautiful. Nothing that they're doing could make me say no to this. I think it's a win-win situation for everybody around. Yes, it might increase a little bit of traffic. So do baseball fields, so does the Elk Lodge, so do more houses. So putting 63 more houses in there, I don't see it to be a win for anybody, but having a nice venue for people would. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room want to speak on this? Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
Rhonda Summers, 4305 Maclay Road.
Go ahead, Rhonda.
I just recently retired from my job at a young age.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And, and I also have a visiting nurse come to our home too because of Ronald. At my young age, I want to enjoy my home. I want to enjoy my property, my neighbors, and everything. I may go back to work part-time, I'm not for sure. But I want to enjoy my home. I've worked all my life to have a home. I got it, and I want to enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Come on up. Oh, you've already been up. You've already been up, ma'am. Sorry. No, I'm sorry. Let's just have other people come up. I'm sure there's enough. Come on up. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address for the record.
Richard Espy, 4312 Maclay.
Go ahead, Richard.
I've been to, I believe, 4 of these meetings on this particular zoning. I've also never been to one of these meetings at all, so I wasn't sure how it worked. Had I known that a petition was an option a long time ago, I would have signed it then. So for them to say that not many people wanted to sign the petition before, I think is untrue. When I was given the opportunity, I took it. I said it's got to be great. Also, Friday nights are good wedding nights. They're actually cheaper than Saturdays. I got married on Friday. Our reception was at 6, and there's just 6 o'clock traffic for the same rush hour traffic, school, businesses, everything else. So I'm definitely against this fully, and I hope that you guys take that recommendation.
Thank you. Come on up. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And state your name and address for the record.
My name is Angela Wilson. I live at 131 Tulip Tree Drive. It's the road right behind Powell Manor.
Go ahead, Angela.
I've lived on Tulip Tree Drive my entire life. I was fortunate enough to move 3 doors up from my parents and have my sister move 2 doors up from myself. We've lived on this peaceful, dead-end, unincorporated street, and I have seen many things change, but fortunately not many of my neighbors. When people moved out here years ago, development of St. Charles was still new. The businesses and homes took time to make things work together and grow together peacefully as a community. Now, most of the homes and businesses have been established for some time. To take what I know as Mr. Powell's home and turn it into a business saddens me deeply. Although I can appreciate the work they have put into cleaning up Powell House, I have to say, to see the land built over would destroy the historical ties to the community. While the home may be marked as historical, any frame of reference to what it would have been like would be lost in the parking lot. Furthermore, they cannot guarantee that even after they close up for the night, that guests don't remain on the lot reminiscing or go to sleep it off in the car, seeing as how they could go simply walk down to Huck's, being that close proximity, and get another beer and hang out with their friends on that parking lot without security. I work at 4 a.m. on the weekends. It would be very easy for one of them to have slept it off and think they slept it off enough and come and hit me or another person. Then I don't be able to provide for my daughter or provide a home for us anymore. I can appreciate that they want to build a business. I just don't believe that a 500 guest wedding venue in the middle of a residential community is the right place.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on up. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
My name is John Khalil. I live on 4 Pines Drive.
Go ahead, John.
So I've actually just moved in. I just purchased a house about a month ago. I'll be honest, if I would have known about all of this, I would have considered twice before I purchased the house.
How far are you from the venue?
My backyard, well, I can see that side road that.
He's on McClay.
I'm like the very first house on Pines right
Okay.
there, essentially,
Okay.
the first house with a driveway.
Okay.
So I would have strongly reconsidered purchasing the house. Like, one of the biggest selling points for me for this neighborhood was the fact that it was quiet, it was calm. Yeah, and yes, a lot of people, I apologize if I reiterate a lot of points. A lot of people have been pointing out that there is a lot of traffic. I agree, there's a lot of traffic. I've been able to get around it with like my work schedule, moving my work schedule around. Having more traffic come through is just gonna be a lot worse. It's already backed up sometimes to where I get off of 94, especially on close to the weekends. On a Friday night, it can be pretty packed. I want to point out another point. A lot of people have been mentioning the whole alcohol issue. It's very easy for somebody to pretend like they're not drunk. Like, a lot of people can pull it off. So to say that there's a bartender that can read people well, or you can still get around it. You can still overdrink. Your car's outside in the parking lot. I see children running, like, in the morning. There's several elementary school children that live off of St. Peter's Howe, and on a Friday evening or Saturday evening, out there playing around with just the traffic in general. They're not even having to be drunk. They're just people driving back and forth, looking at their phone, being out, trying to find out where the venue is, being on the map. Very easy to jump a curb even. I want to ask you to just kind of consider the families that live there as if it's yourself, just because it's a lot easier to make a decision when you're not directly impacted on it personally. Whereas with people like, especially like me, like, I actually agreed that I would probably have a hard time selling my house, because I know that I wouldn't have bought my house if I knew there was something going on back there, just because I don't want to deal with it. Like, I bought the house because I wanted it quiet. I didn't want it. I could have lived downtown if I really wanted traffic, a lot of noise, next to a bar, whatever. It's just the evening time it's a really quiet area, and it's very enjoyable. And my backyard looks out to that direction. I don't. With the noise and the amount of traffic late in the evening, it's going to be difficult to enjoy the property that I just purchased myself.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, John.
thank you.
I know. Yeah. Anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and close this public. Come on. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And state your name and address for the
My
record.
name is Ken Devening. I live at 20 Linda Lane. I've lived at this place for 21 years. One of the reasons that my family and I have stayed here so long is because it's quiet. There's one way in and one way out of our subdivision, so there's not a lot of traffic. And even as it is right now, in the evening, we can hear cheers from the Ball Diamonds, which is considerably farther than this venue is going to be. We hear cheers from the fans at the Ball Diamonds. So with this being a lot closer, I'm just concerned about the noise.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the public comment portion and ask the applicant, well, come on up. Come on, hurry up.
Sorry.
It's okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
Peggy Hopkins, 4324 McClay Road.
Go ahead, Peggy.
I am less than a block from the venue that's going to go in. I much rather see a historical site stay preserved and put a wedding venue in there than more homes or apartments that we don't know what we're going to get for neighbors. As far as traffic and noise, we have had this for the last umpteen years. Everybody has been dealing with this. The only reason why there's traffic coming off of Woodstream is because they made it a one-way now, and they did South St. Peter's Parkway, I think is what they call it. You can only go one way there now. Before you could come through, if you were to go to Emos, for instance, you could cut back through Woodstream. Now you have to cut through if you live on McClay or any of the other subdivisions. We've always had traffic problems. We work around it. As far as noise, I can stand in my backyard and hear the Elks Lodge. when they're having wedding receptions. They eventually close down. You don't hear music. You don't hear people out there. Why? Because we have a great St. Charles County Police Department that stays on top of this at all times. As far as drunks, we get them all the time anyway. There's nothing but people drinking all night long up there at all the bars. It's at South St. Peter's. That cut through Central School Road and Maclay. And then we've got them on the other side. We're careful. We deal with it. And again, the police department is out fully at all times. We have never had any kind of problems. There may be fender benders or accidents occasionally. Where are you going to go that you don't have that? But as far as a wedding venue, there could have not been a better place picked, as far as I'm concerned, for this, for people to go to a historical site and keep it in St. Charles County, where people can actually go instead of a hall. You can have an environment. And I was not told the truth, like many people, about what was proposed. So I want to make sure that you all know that I am definitely for this.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak on this matter before I close the public comment? Okay, so we're going to cut it off at about 2 more people because I don't see the need to just hear the same things again. I know you guys have problems. You're the ones that live by it. We get it. So we want to get back the applicant up here, talk to him, and get some discussion started on this. Go ahead and raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
Judy Devning, 20 Linda Lane.
Judy, go ahead.
Number one, the main reason I'm up here now is because I want to point out that this young lady made a lot of points for the other side, apparently. Yes, there's traffic, she said. You know, a lot of what she mentioned, we have drunks already, so we deal with them. I'm asking that you hear the will of the people. You've got 2 people, one who's stating the same cases that the opposing side is, and the will of the people in the room are asking you to please not rezone this.
Okay,
I'm just
we got
stating
it.
the same thing.
Thank you.
One quick little thing, the cut through. Number one, it's not because of just the one-way street being changed. I've lived here for 20-some years, and I've cut through that subdivision, not really thinking much about it. Probably won't do it anymore, but that was way before the Page extension came out through there, and that was changed to a one-way street. So that's not new. That cut through has been, and it will increase traffic with this, I agree. And it's wrong to say that that's only because of that one-way street.
Okay, thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address for the record.
Rosemary Vogel, 4328 Maclay Road.
Go ahead,
I believe
Rosemary.
that I was lied to and given false information, which is why I sent the email reneging and saying that I am for this vision for the Powell Mansion.
Okay.
After meeting with Mike and Ruth at their open house on Sunday, I do believe in their vision and that it would be a good thing for the community.
Okay. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and close the public comment. And we're going to bring the applicant back up. You have an opportunity to address. Ruth, it's up to you. Again, we're going to give you a couple minutes because I'd like to get discussion started up here.
I'm not going to say much.
Just address what happened at your open house? Could you
We had probably 3 times the amount of people there that are here tonight, and it was just a sign that we put in our front yard that said open house for the neighborhood. And Mike Elam showed up there, and he can attest to how many people were there. And they were all in favor, except for 2. There were 2 people there that expressed concern. Other than that, they were all in favor. And about 8 to 10 people told me that they wanted to take their name off the opposition list because they were lied to about different parts of our plan. And I said it doesn't matter at this point anyway, so I just told them don't worry about it. The only thing I would like to address that was brought up besides Woods, I guess 2 things. Woodstream, like I said, I can't imagine why anybody would go through there. I've never Googled it myself, so I really don't know. I've been there, through there once to go to the paint store. That's it. And I've lived off St. Peter's Hall Road for 17 years. The other thing is, someone said that property values would go down with this wedding venue event center there, and that somebody's property is commercial on 3 sides. We're not making anyone's property commercial on 3 sides. There's not a single lot. There's 14 properties that touch our property right now, and only 4 of them have expressed an interest that they're not interested in the zoning. 10 are all interested, so, and they're not here. And I don't ask anyone to show up, so I think that their time with their family is more valuable than sitting here listening to this stuff over and over again. So, is there any questions?
Seeing none, thank you. You can sit down. All right, let's bring it back before this commission. Is there any discussion on this matter?
Just a little soliloquy. My wife lived on St. Peter Hall Road. And, 45 years ago, it's go out 94, turn up St. Peter's Hall. I'm the 4th mailbox on the left. And I knew all the neighbors, and over 45 years, I watched all the building and the improvements that went on around there. And one time, she said, look back this road where the school bus went, and I saw this mansion there all grown up in brush and ivy and stuff all over it. And then to see what it looks like now and this stuff, it's obviously quite an improvement. And I think I said in the June meeting, and Ruth did say here, that that's a big piece of property. There's 10 acres. In 1973, it was zoned that you could put 5 houses per acre. They could have 50 houses put on, and they wouldn't have to come back here through us again. There would be some planning and stuff like that, but has been zoned since 73 that they could have that many houses put on that parcel of property. And I would ask these people to consider that. It's beautiful to look out there the way it looks now, but when the trees are gone and you get 50 houses, and if they make them that small, you can imagine what the property value would be. I heard these comments on property value. If you've got a house out there and now you've got these cracker box houses put up out there, not being insulting, but I mean very modest little houses, that wouldn't do much for your property value either. So my comment.
Please, please. Please, you need to stay quiet. We're discussing it up here. Thank you. Any other discussion on this? All right, well, seeing none, I'll take a recommendation or approval, a motion to approve.
I'll make a
As
motion.
is, Mr. Chair.
If you want to make a motion to change, you can too.
Well, I just throw it out.
Yeah.
Does anybody want a motion?
That's why I said we want discussion on this.
The only thing I have was.
Did you want to ask staff about?
Wording with the 200 feet, so
We don't have to,
flexibility.
well,
But if we don't have to do that.
We don't have
so-
to add the 200 feet.
We don't have to have the recommendation. You can take that out. Right now, it's a recommendation. If we approve that, it's 200 feet. Isn't that right?
I would recommend taking it out to give it some flexibility.
Okay, that's a motion to take that out. That was number 6, I believe, is what it was?
Yeah, from the June meeting, yes.
It's not in this one.
Oh, it's not in this one?
Yeah, that's just their option.
Just a
Oh, that's right, recommendation. Okay.
Yeah, we'll ask council.
You could vote based on the plan before you.
Yeah, I don't think we have to do anything then,
Okay.
do we?
Based
Yeah.
on the plans.
Yeah.
All right,
I'll
so-
make a motion, or second, Rogers.
Oh, Ron made it.
No, Ron made.
Mr. Setley?
I vote yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Cleary?
No.
Mr. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm votes yes. Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
No.
7-2. Again, you guys have a chance to go before the county council, and that is, yes, I've been out there several times.
I have.
Please,
45
please,
years.
please.
Yeah, all right.
So,
Mr.
the
Chairman.
meeting's still going on. Yes, go ahead. Oh, Keith, go ahead.
Before everybody leaves.
Before everybody leaves, hold on.
Remember, this has kind of an unusual history. The bill was actually introduced on Monday, July the 11th.
Okay.
We determined this situation concerning the notice between July the 11th and July the 25th. On the 25th, it was tabled, so right now, it is on the county council's agenda as a tabled item.
Okay.
They can bring it up on Monday, August the 29th. And
Okay.
in fact, I would suspect it probably will be brought off the table.
Okay, so just so you know, August 29th is when you need to go to the county council meeting, and you need 3 speakers. 3 speakers. Just keep that in mind. They're only going to let you talk for 3 minutes. I don't know if you were to the last meeting. They cut you off very quickly, so make sure you got all your items that you want to talk to them about and see if you can get this changed. So, thank you again. We're going to give you guys a few minutes to clear out the room. Please, just clear the room.
Paid off. You got paid off. Paid off. Paid off.
You need a nap?
Yes. Yep.
Police. Marshal at Arms request county police to adjourn the meeting. Several years ago, actually, I sat here, Cheryl was there. She didn't know that Miss Bryant was a runner. One of the three songs. She's the worst
I love how they're shaking their heads at us. The evil empire.
Got the zone. It's not allowed to stop.
One of these meetings, I bet they have it. Really, no kidding. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on. The next item up on for the agenda is conditional use 16-06. It's a conditional use at 7275 Highway Inn. The applicant is Premier Civil Engineering. Property owner is HFS Revocable Trust. Use request, short-term rehabilitation facility. The property zoning is R1A Single Family Residential District. The area is 5.6 acres. The location is at the northeast corner of Monette Drive and Missouri State Highway Inn. It's in Council District 3. Go ahead, staff.
Thank you. The subject site is zoned R1A. Adjoining properties are within the city limits of Darden Prairie and are zoned single-family residential in Darden Prairie to the north and west. To the east is an institution, and then institutions also found to the south. The property, it's been zoned R1A since 1973 when we adopted the the revised zoning ordinance, and then again with the Unified Development Ordinance. In 2000, there was a conditional use permit that was approved on the property for a similar institution, a senior congregate living residence. That conditional use permit expired because they never developed the property. So in looking at the proposed conditional use permit, staff looked at it from the standpoint of the Unified Development Ordinance requires basic with the health, safety, and welfare of all the residents of the county in mind. And we find that the short-term rehabilitation facility does meet those standards of the conditional use permit. With it being located along Highway N, it's an area with traffic, but the use of this care facility is less intensive than if it were another commercial property. Oops, I don't have the land use plan. I think the land use plan showed it as commercial. for future land use. The institutions have a requirement in the Unified Development Ordinance that the building can't occupy more than 50% of the site. And in this case, the building does not occupy more than 50% of the site. And there's natural buffering to the properties to the north with a natural watercourse. That watercourse, they have to maintain a setback, an undisturbed setback of 25 feet from the top of the bank. So that provides a great buffer to the north. So staff is recommending approval, subject to a site plan in conformance with the preliminary site plan, be submitted to and approved by the Community Development Department. No conditional use shall be an active use until all conditions of the approval have been met. And in any case where conditional use is not in place or in active use within 2 years from the date of granting and or in accordance with the terms of the conditional use originally granted or subsequently amended, then without further action, the Planning and Zoning Commission and or the County Council, the conditional use or authorization thereof shall be null and void. We did receive 2 letters, one from Robert and Robin Granzo and one from Christopher Grimes. Questions of staff?
Any questions? Go ahead.
It seems like that piece of property, I guess in 1973, that would be a residential, but these days, that's a very busy street there.
Yeah, the R1A zoning was put on in, and it probably followed in the agricultural zoning from 59 to 73. What they did when they adopted the 73 maps, a lot of the areas that were basically inside Highway 4061, they gave them all like a residential zoning, unless it was at a major intersection or already zoned commercial.
So a commercial operation can go on that piece of property that's zoned?
Well, they would have to rezone it to commercial, but the future land use plan does show it as commercial.
Okay.
In the packet that we have, it appears that it's more or less presented as like just on grade and level, but as I remember going by that site, there was a tremendous, fairly good slope from the top to the bottom, so there's either going to have to be a lot of fill, or this isn't.
I'm going to guess that the engineer is going to address that.
Okay, yeah. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause we talked about it on the phone today, but I'll let him explain it.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff? Seeing none, go ahead, Robert. Are you going to question yourself?
I'm going to question myself,
Okay.
yes. No. On the way in, someone mentioned something to me I thought I would clarify. When they got the notice, they saw the word rehabilitation, and they wondered if it included like drug and alcohol rehabilitation. But what we're talking about here is a physical rehabilitation. So if you get out of the hospital and you're not quite ready to go home yet because of some physical reason, this is the kind of a place you would go and for a few days or a few weeks.
Okay. Let's go ahead and bring the applicant up. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And state your name and address for the record.
My name is Matt Fogarty. I'm with Premier Civil Engineering, 308 TCW Court, Lake St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
Good evening, gentlemen.
You want to set your stuff up, or?
Yes, I wanted to pass out, I have 7 of these. There's a couple more people, but if you could share, just give us a brief background of what Centerra is. Luckily for staff, they did explain that because we did get stopped while we were on site doing the surveying of it, and residents were asking questions specifically regarding the drug and alcohol rehabilitation, and that's not what this facility is for, so it gives a better idea. So this is a 5.86 acre site. It's, as we talked about, it's the northwest corner of Monet and Highway N. We do have Canvas Cove subdivision located to the west and to the north. There's an existing, I think it's a daycare just to the east. So to give an idea, and of course 364 is to the south. There is a substantial amount of topography change. I did not realize how bad it was until we actually got the survey back. When just going through the process, we were able to get this plan in sooner, and we got the topographic survey back last week. Well, once we realized there's 22 feet of grade change from entrance to entrance, We knew some of the slopes and the entrances were going to need to be pretty steep. So we're working through that. Really, the layout as shown here is very close to what our final design was. So I'm still tweaking that right now, but when we have it, it will end up looking like this. So it's a 38-bed facilities. There's 36 parking spaces, and the intent here is the key client or patient is mainly elderly, to help assist them get better, get them out of the hospital, but somewhere where it's not a institution nursing home, where this is an institutional use. It gives a better atmosphere. I mean, it's it's suites essentially instead of hospital rooms, and you're sharing rooms with people, et cetera. So, of course, the owner is also here. If you have any questions for him or any questions for me, we'll be glad to help you out.
Any questions for Matt?
How many typical rooms are you going to have in this?
There's 38 beds, so 38 rooms, from what I understand.
What's your average stay for rehabilitation?
That's a very good question.
You'd have to come up. You'd have to come up and be sworn in. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
Vance Fager. I'm at 16404 Northeast 127th in Kearney, Missouri.
Thanks. Go ahead, Vance.
So the question, I'm sorry.
How long is a typical stay, somebody going through rehab?
Probably typically about 2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks. And you're located down the road from Delmar Gardens?
Yes.
Yeah. I know one of the letters of opposition, they mentioned Delmar Gardens isn't quite full. When we moved my parents up here, to get them into Delmar Gardens, it was a waiting list. And my parents had different levels. They had independent, skilled, and what you have, the 3 levels of care. And having been over there, they both passed away at Delmar Gardens. But I think the need, as the population's getting elderly, and certainly for physical fitness, I know what they do over there, but I think something like this could certainly complement. I know my parents, and going over there every single day, watching other people that had medical issues, they would go to Progress West, and then they'd have to come back. And I think this could probably complement some of those re-entering back into Delmar Gardens as its close proximity.
And we do feel like it's a nice additional option.
Yeah.
Excuse me, what type of signage will you have?
Currently, we're just proposing a small monument sign at the corner, so that way people can see that. What the exact detail of that sign is, we have not done that yet, but it will meet the county's codes, and any permits required for that sign will be obtained through staff. That's, there's no, as you can see from the building elevations that were submitted, really is the signage on the building that I'm aware of. This facility has been built, I got to speak up on the microphone. This facility is also under construction, I believe, in Independence right now, correct? And then there is another one in Springfield, Missouri. So this has been approved. For them to even be able to build this, they have to get approval from the state first before they even come and start this process. So the state has to determine if there's a need for this. So that's how we're here tonight.
And with the face of your building, with your proposal facing the residents across the street, what type of lighting, nighttime lighting will you have on the face of the building?
For facing the building, there's typically downcast or upcast lighting, but light projecting out, no, there is none. We will need light standards in the parking lot. They're cut off, likely LED. It's very minimal because mainly people are there during the day, not at night. And then people who are staying there at night, if they wanted to take a walk, they can. And that's why we are proposing the additional sidewalks on the property, so they can walk either around the building or on Monet, which that's a public road. There is no sidewalk, so we are proposing one on there. And then also we're putting a sidewalk on it's now the service road, but Highway N there. And that's plenty far off the property, or from the road, so that way we don't have a concern from pedestrians and vehicles, et cetera.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Matt, I realize you said you just got the topo maps. What are you gonna, where are you gonna, how are you gonna move the dirt around on that side?
Cut to the south, fill to the north. We have the base in there. I was very, very close to keeping things on grade until I added the detention basin in later this afternoon. So, I mean, literally, as we're designing this, we're trying to figure out how to tweak it to keep most of the dirt without too much haul off or haul on. So that's really the key. And yes, we're going to try to keep some of the trees, but honestly, just because of the topographic changes, even coming from Monet east-west, it's going to be very hard to do so because that building's going to be sitting at roughly a 607, and at one entrance, I believe it's at a 616, and then the other one's at a 593 or 594 to give you an idea of how much it is. So there's 22 feet is what it.
And is there any particular reason you couldn't have brought it off the service road as opposed through this subdivision?
Yeah, it's something we can consider. If we do so, we're going to have to, we do need a secondary access. If we can work with MoDOT to get an access onto Highway N, today there's only a residential. And because of the access from Monet, I've had concerns that MoDOT would even allow it because of the vicinity of access. But I could talk with J.J. Braden with MoDOT to find out if that's a possibility. It would require us to raise up the site substantially from where it is today, and it would help from the standpoint that we can close that one access point off that's further back. But that building will be sitting lower than the residents' homes, to give an idea.
Okay. Thank you.
What's your maximum capacity of patients that you can have in there?
38.
38? Looks like a very high-end, ultra high-end rehabilitation facility. Are these covered by, people generally covered by insurance, or are they?
Most typically Medicare.
Okay.
And then some private pay and some Medicaid.
I'll have to remember that. I live right down the street from there. So a nice place.
I'm too healthy. Vance, don't forget to fill out a speaker's card, too.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, you guys? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, take it. You can bring it up later. You know what, leave it there for now. You can come back. I'm just going to go ahead and open up to the public. If there's anybody here that wants to speak on this matter for or against, to come forward, please. You can just put it in that basket over there. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And state your name and address for the record.
Dale Kelly, 15 Benton Court.
Go ahead, Dale.
Real quick, this is the first time I've heard of this when I got this little notice in the mail. I think the gentleman gave everybody up here an information packet concerning the property. Is that correct?
He gave us what the property, not the property itself.
Well,
just
no,
their
but what
business
it's
is.
going to be. Is there any way that we can get anything
Sure.
like that?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure, you know, through this whole round robin thing, I hope there'll be, is there going to be more meetings on this?
It goes before county council.
Okay, I mean, but is there going to be another, like the one before us, apparently there was
Yeah,
6
that
meetings?
That one got a little,
Okay, so this is going to be the only one with,
Complicated.
right here. Okay. Real quick, I'm, you know, not too comfortable with this going to just, it looks like it's probably going to go commercial, you know, down the road. That's all residential around there. Has there been a consideration, I live behind a stormwater retention area down in the back end of Benton, and just this past rain, you know, it got full. What's going to happen when they change the topography of this piece of land?
they're
What's-
putting a retention basin in there.
Where's that going to go?
It's going to go on the property.
Have you, I'm sure, you live down in there?
See the
You've
blue?
seen this, I know the property, I live there.
See
Show
the,
it-
see
so
the
it
blue
shows
in
it
the
on
drawing?
Uh-huh.
That's the retention basin.
That's a little bitty retention basin. you know.
Well,
I know,
by
I'm just saying,
scale.
I've seen just this past rain, we've had a lot of water down in there, and now that they're changing the topography of that piece of land,
Yeah.
how's it gonna affect that? you know?
Well, that's why they're putting a retention basin.
Yeah.
And anything that would go in there, houses or whatever, it's going to change the
Okay.
water flows.
All right,
That's
and
why
like
we
I
do
said,
it.
I'm just, against it just because I think it's gonna go commercial, and that's a residential thing. We live in a residential area. Was it a commercial property? Was it 2 streets up? And it's hardly full at all, so, and I'm just against it going commercial. All right, thank you.
Not going commercial.
Well, now,
Well, it'd have to come before us if it was for that
Okay,
change.
I just,
Can't change it once it's put in place.
okay.
That's why they're back. This was done 10 years ago or 15
Right,
years ago.
well, and then when I seen it was F1, and then they're saying, well, maybe it's going to be somebody's going to come out of a hospital. It's almost like a nursing home, a high-end nursing home,
No, it's not bad. It's rehabilitation. facility.
Rehabilitation.
Yeah. People for knees and hips and stuff
Yes,
like
yes, I know. Cardiac rehab, what can
need
we
it.
do? What
We
else
need it.
can we call it, so.
what we
All
need.
right, well, that's what I just want to make
Okay.
sure it's not going to go commercial.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dave. Anybody else wants to speak on this? Raise your right hand for me. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record?
My name's Alicia Gay. I'm with the City of Dardenne Prairie. The address there is 2032 Hanley. I come before the commission to ask that you please hold off on your issuance of a CUP for this property, as the City of Dardenne Prairie surrounds this area, and we just found out about this coming in. So we still would like to find out some more information and explore what exactly is going on, and also as far as Monet property boundaries, who owns that land.
So you want us to not vote on it tonight?
Yes, we're asking that you
And
hold off on
What would
it.
you propose happen then?
We'd just like to know what's going on.
Well, that's why we're here.
Right, but the city itself, we believe Monet may actually be Dardenne Prairie property, so we need to learn about.
It is.
Drive on, drive off, determining if this actually falls in line with Dardenne Prairie's code.
I couldn't comment on that. Yeah, I couldn't comment on that.
Okay, yes, the street is in Dardenne Prairie. When we get to site plan approval, the developer has to submit to us their permits to access the street in Dardenne Prairie with their entrance drives. That's what we do with they either have to have the stuff from our highway department, MoDOT, or whatever municipality that it is.
Yeah, they'd all have a say in it.
Well, that's just it. As a municipality, we just weren't aware this was going in, so we'd like a little time for us to learn about this.
Are they-
Well, but
It's just the
when we're at
residents,
site
right?
plan
They're not-
time, you would get a copy of the plan, and you guys have all the time you need to evaluate.
We're just requesting, that's all.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. Anybody else in the room wants to speak on this matter? Move yourself, keep coming up, so you're ready to
This
go.
is kind of like high school graduation, and my last name starts with a Z, and everyone took off, so
Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record?
My name is Robin Granzo, and I live at 6 Monet Court. I'm one who sent a letter. Our big concern is, we've been there about 23 years, and I know there's a detention pond, but you have no idea what this ditch creek is like, and my husband and I have often joked about getting a kayak. It flooded our backyard this past December. We've had our basement flooded because that water comes up. If there's no trees to suck up the water, even that detention pond will not be enough with the amount of rain that comes down that slope. My husband had to almost dig his own irrigation ditch this past December with all the rain. So our big concern is, I don't so much have an issue with something like this going in, but it's the amount of water that comes down that hill. I'm just saying that I do not believe that detention pond will even be enough. I mean, it's pretty bad.
But what if it could fix it and fix your water problem?
That's one of our big concerns. And then on the tree line, how much of the trees are they going to leave backing to our circle?
Well, they show some, but
I mean, that's not really a clear-cut
We'll bring 'em up
picture.
and ask 'em.
Okay.
We'll bring 'em up.
Yeah, but our big thing is, it's the water. You just have no idea what it's like back there. When that water comes up out of the ditch, it comes above the bank, and it has been in our backyard before, so.
All right.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. 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 Raise your right hand for me. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record?
John Johnston, 17 Benton Court, and I've been in the area for about 11 years, and I like the way it's peaceful, it's quiet. I don't want anything else in there. Like the gentleman already said, there's a commercial court about a half mile down the other way. There's a lot of property back in there, and there's empty buildings in there. Why would we want to put something else where you've got something already started? I'm opposed to it.
Okay, thank you. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record?
David Hosking, I'm at 4 Monet Court.
Go ahead, David.
The southern boundary of our property is contiguous to the northern boundary of this property.
Okay.
I've been looking at this slope for over 14 years, and it's significant. I kind of thought it might be a little bit more than 22 feet in elevation. I'm a professional engineer, surveyor, and a GIS guy. I've been around development for a long time, and I know what happens typically is that the bulldozers come in and clean off all the trees. We have a magnificent backyard, in-ground pool, and the view is outstanding. It's private. What we don't want is to lose our pool and the property value diminish by looking at this, I don't know, retaining wall, little saplings being put back in and that sort of thing. I'd say at least a setback from the bank of at least 100 feet would be appropriate to keep those trees. It is an environmental treasure. Owls, ducks, deer, everything is in there.
Sure. Yeah, I understand. I understand.
So our concern is leaving some trees.
Okay, thanks, David.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the room want to speak on this matter? Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And go ahead and state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Amy Pat, and I live at 1702 Renoir Drive.
Go ahead, Amy.
The safety of the children in the subdivision is my primary concern. My daughter, Claire, she's an 8th grader here at Fort Zumwalt West, and the activity bus drops her off at the front of our subdivision. Now, when that activity bus drops her off at the evening, as a single mother that works, sometimes I'm there to pick her up and other times I'm not. So as this drawing is laid out now, she would have to cross 2 intersections right there while traveling home. That concerns me. She's smart enough to know to stay out of the street, but if there's people coming out, maybe they're emotional because their loved one is in this rehab facility. I don't know, but it makes me feel uncomfortable knowing that she would have to pass that twice. Additional, what I think about too is, so you have 38 beds there, but only 36 parking spots. Let's say that everyone wants to come visit their loved one that day. How many staff are going to be there? How are you going to have enough parking? Where's the overflow lot going to be? Down Monet?
It's in the back.
In the back? So
Plans.
that's only 36 parking spots, though. They said a total of 36 parking spots. Another question is, will the site host any type of events? Delmar Gardens, for instance, they have a large firework display, picnics. And in our subdivision, with these houses being so close to this proposal, I don't want fireworks blowing up on top of my house. Another concern is, how will the patients be transported to the facility? And do you anticipate the needs for any emergency calls for patients? Sleep is important to kids growing up. It's important that they have restful sleep. I don't want to hear an ambulance zooming through our neighborhood at 12 o'clock at night. And I just ask you to consider that as parents and as residents and neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak on this?
Fill out a card. I didn't fill one out because I didn't know I was going to do
Raise
this.
your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
Mary Ann Lubert, 4 Monet Court.
Go ahead, Mary Ann.
Mr. Griffin, you said that when you put your parents in, you had difficulty, they were on a waiting list. I just put my dad in June. He's 87 years old, in a rehab facility in St. Charles County. I visited 4 of them, and all 4 of them were available. I was able to put my father in Garden View Rehab Center on the same day that I applied for a position. I don't think that we need this. Also, there is that a sidewalk on the side, the north view. Is that a sidewalk up against the property line?
We'll ask him. We'll ask him.
Not on the north property line.
Well, what is that? I'm confused then.
The white line, that's just, I was, because of the aerial, trying to show the
So you can
property
s-
boundaries better, so everybody can see. So
All right.
it's hard to see on the screen.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say, there is availability in St. Charles County because I have visited 4 of them, but I put my 87-year-old father in the same day.
Thank you. Anybody else wants to speak on this? Raise your right hand, and do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I always do.
And go ahead and state your name and address for the record.
It's Paul Roseman. I live at 7253 Highway N, 2 doors down from where they're going to build.
Okay, go ahead, Carl.
I'm not opposed and I'm not for it. The only thing I'm really concerned with is after they get in there, making sure that they don't switch over to drug and alcohol abuse. I've got kids next door to me. There is a school for small kids, and that concerns me very much.
Okay.
But otherwise, I was out there when there was, I deer hunted where it's at.
So it's being approved for a short-term.
I'm sorry?
It's being approved only for a short-term rehabilitation facility.
Okay.
They would have to have.
That's all I've got to
They
say.
have to have a different license from the state.
Right. Yeah, so you don't have to worry about that right
I'm
now.
rather hard to hear it.
Oh, they would have to have a different license from the state before they change the purpose
Okay.
of the facility.
All right, because I got a small one living with me, and I know there's a bunch of small ones next door, and I don't want to see that happen.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Don't forget to turn your speaker cards in, too. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record?
Christina Johnston, 17 Benton Court. I oppose this plan. Basically, our subdivision does not have any sidewalks throughout the whole subdivision. The 2 entrances right there are really unacceptable. We have considerable through traffic from Highway N and Fizey through our subdivision. I believe that this will just make more traffic, through our subdivision, making it unsafe for all the residents.
Christine, you realize that before you lived there, that was the same concern when you moved in? Traffic?
When I first moved in there 11 years ago, that was a really quiet subdivision.
Yeah, I know.
And increasingly has gotten noisier because of the highway, and things like that.
That's right.
But I had no idea that something like this would go in with 2 entrances in our subdivision. Yeah. And that's my concern.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I've had.
It's all right. Raise your right hand, please. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And go ahead and state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Sarah Schuff. I live at 1702 Renoir Drive.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I am actually a member of the board of the Canvas Cove HOA, so I appreciate what you guys do because I'm sure you hear it all kind of like we do. But as a member of the board, I would have to say I am deeply opposed to this for quite a few reasons. I'm not quite sure how this works, and as Ms. Gay asked, I would ask for an extension because only a handful of the people in the neighborhood got a notice that this was even happening. So I would like to send a letter out to all of our neighborhood because our whole neighborhood's going to be affected by this. And also, as part of the HOA, we have maintained that line on Monet as far as grass cutting, removing trees when needed, and now they're going to come put an entrance in. And once again, the traffic is going to increase. So I would like a continuance or whatever the word is so that we can get that figured out with Darden Prairie as well.
Okay.
And the other thing I worry about is heavy traffic coming in and out, not traffic like car traffic. Is there going to be oxygen delivered? Is there going to be a food and beverage service there? Is there going to be medical waste sitting out? Is there going to be linens that have to be changed? Is there going to be equipment repairs, the trash?
Sure.
There's tons of kids that live in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
And all of that, medical waste, like that kind of freaks me out a little bit. I know it's a short-term rehab, but like even in short-term rehab, you're gonna have medical waste.
But they're not going to just throw it out on the street.
No, I understand that. I understand
mean-
that. But I'm just saying, if that was that close to you with your kids, I feel that you would also feel uncomfortable as I do. How will the site be secured? Because they said that if the people want to go take a walk, they can just go down Monet. So does that mean some kids can just walk into the facility? And there's 38 beds, but how many, that's just inpatient. How many outpatients are they going to see every day? I mean, is there going to be I'm just asking these questions. I know you guys don't have the answer, but we would like the answers for this as a community, as a neighborhood. And, I would like to tell more of my neighbors, so more of my neighbors could come out and, give their opinion on it.
So Sarah, those are good questions. We'll ask that of the applicant when he comes back up.
Alrighty, and as, I know everybody's beat on this, but we, as a HOA, have put a lot of money into the retention basin because, and you guys, I feel like we're beating a dead horse here, but that water is insane, the way that it rises up when we have those flash storms. And it's our responsibility as the homeowners association to make sure that runs and flows smoothly. As a neighborhood, we cannot take a hit because they want to develop this land. So I just want to make sure, I'm not sure what the wording is for that, but I want to make sure that that is addressed because that retention basin has already cost us money in just maintaining it and keeping it up. But I don't think we should have to pay for an extra maintenance because of the development of this land, because that's where the water's all going to go, is right down to
Actually,
where our
it's going to
retention
stay on
basin
the
is.
property and going to go into retention
Okay.
basin on the property.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else in the room? You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
My name is Steve Sweeney. I live at 1761 Monet. I live right across from one of those entrances that they're putting on there.
Okay.
I also live a couple miles from Del Mar, where Mr. Griffin said he had his parents. And basically, anytime day or night, there are ambulances and fire trucks already running to Del Mar. We have a small entrance, as you can see, because it's single car passage. The trucks coming in now to just give the community service have a hard time getting in. When we start adding all the other traffic coming down Monet, it's going to be impossible to get in and out of there. You're talking about 36 parking spots. You're putting driveways right across from residential houses. And the other thing is, y'all talked about in 1973, it was platted out for whatever. But the plat I looked at when I bought the house 4 years ago showed that it was 8 residential houses that were approved to go in there.
Yeah, it was a conditional use permit that was approved on it. It's still residential.
Yeah, and when we looked at that, I would have never bought a house like this. I've heard them say, oh, it doesn't affect your value, but I wouldn't buy the house.
Well, Steve, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. Anytime there's property across the street from you, you never know what's going to go in there. You just never know.
When it's bordering
there
a
could be houses
neighborhood,
right across the street from you with driveways right across the street from you.
but when you looked at the drive going down through the neighborhood,
8 driveways along that road.
yes. And you would think the piece of property right in front of it, you wouldn't put commercial in a neighborhood, and that is putting commercial in a neighborhood because you are cutting the corner of that corner.
Yeah, okay.
And I just totally disagree with the whole thing going in there. I mean, I understand it may be commercial, but you're going to be putting medical waste, you've got oxygen, you've got all the traffic coming in. They're going to put up lighting, which is going to shine in my house 24/7, 365 days a year, because this facility doesn't close. That means there's traffic coming in and out all days, time of night, because you've got shifts going in and out.
Okay.
And you've got it coming in on a residential street.
All right.
Thank you.
We got it. Thanks. Anybody else?
Yes.
Did you have something new to add to it? We got traffic, lights. Oh, well, I mean, come on up then. Yeah. We want to get the applicant up so he can answer some of those questions and hopefully can give you guys some comfort or something. Swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And state your name and address for the record.
Judy Fierce, 7290 Picasso, and I'm also on the board.
Okay, Judy.
My question is, why does it have to come in on Monet? Why can't it come in on N?
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
State your name and address for the record.
My name is Michael Robertson, and I live at 1726 Monet Drive. I too have children that get off on the activity bus that walk down that street. My youngest is 11, who's now going to school. And just to have him go down a sidewalk, or not even a sidewalk there, that goes down, facing those entrances, I just think it's just a huge liability. I mean, what happens if one of our children, and I get it, one of our kids could get hit by a bus here or there, but that's just a huge concern for me. 11 years old, walking down that grade. And another thing, if you look at that building, if you look at the top half of the building, well, if you figure all those trees, from where I'm at on Monet, which sits a little bit higher, down a dip and going up a little bit, I'm going to have a beautiful view of the Page Extension because all those trees are going to be gone. And it's just, there's nothing stopping the sound coming down and just the overall aesthetics. I get it. And the entrances on the side coming into the subdivision, that's just heartbreaking, just makes me want to, move.
Okay.
And I get it. You guys hear this from everybody, everybody's traffic and lights and, cut throughs and this and that. I get it. And I heard the last group of people in here and 95% of them said, oh, we got all these problems, and it was a quick vote, 7-2, boom. That's my concern, legitimately.
Thank you. Sir, do you have something new to add? Is it something new? Is it traffic? Is it lighting? Is it? What's that?
I have something new.
Okay, thank you. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
Bob Bokerman, 1769 Monet Drive. I'll be right across the street from that.
Okay.
And so I'm not going to repeat anything, but I am going to say that I know we need facilities like this, but what a bad piece of property. I mean, you couldn't pick a worse piece of property for that. There's commercial property all over St. Charles County. If you're going to do this, and if you guys are going to vote for this, be a good neighbor. How about leaving a vegetation barrier up down Monet behind the house and put the entrance on in?
Bob,
I mean, if you guys are going
address
to
us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
And state your name and address for the record.
Linda Casbaum, 1735 Monet Drive.
Go ahead, Linda.
What does this building look like? Is it single story? Is it high rise? I mean, 3 floors, 4 floors, what?
It's right there.
Right there.
Oh. Okay.
That's just the building, you guys. That's not sitting on the property. That's just what the building's going to look like.
Okay.
Okay?
So is it going to have a fence around it? Are we going to be looking at dumpsters and waste containers? What is it going to look like?
What do you look at in your neighborhood when people put the trash out? You look at
These are
trash?
not the same.
I'm just telling you, you guys.
It's not the same. I look up that hill right now from my front yard, and if there's going to be dumpsters, if there's going to be big...
So they're showing it right there on the screen. It's going to be a dumpster in the back of the lot, right there. There's a tree line right there.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they're actually, it's going to be a pretty good building. They're going to do as best job they can to make it fit into the topography of that property and be as few as impact on the neighborhood. That's what happens in development. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else wants to speak on this? Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the public comment and bring the applicant back up. Try to address some of this. Yeah, if you both want to come, it's up to you, Vance. I mean, let the engineer answer a lot of the questions. So trees is one of them?
And as I mentioned before, right now with the current layout, it's going to be hard to save a lot of these trees.
Okay.
Now in the stream area, yes, that is the intent. The power of water is amazing. We all know that. The gully that was created on the property actually pushed the entire upper bank of the creek into the site another 60, 70 feet. And so that was one of the things that I talked to Jan about today was the fact that there does need to be repair. It's in an existing one-to-one slope. In due time, because of between the types of storm events we're getting right now and the banks of the creek, there's going to be continued erosion, which is going to create bigger problems long-term. So there's one of two solutions. We try to fix it the best we can, or at least fix that one area, try to leave the rest of the vegetation. And secondly, because of how the ordinance is with the 50-foot setback, that site really set itself with where I could place it at with the property lines. I've got a 50-foot buffer on Highway N, a 50-foot buffer on Monet, and that's to the actual asphalt parking, the drive lane. That's not even for the building. So in regards to the actual entrance on Highway N, again, I'll go back to MoDOT and see if that is a possibility, just based on letting JJ know about the residents' concerns to see if we can. If not, then it's going to open up other issues, and it includes, if we can, I've got to raise up this entire site substantially. It's going to affect the cost of the property in general, just to, instead of having that building to where it was in regards to street level a little down, it's going to get that building even higher up. So people are going to see that building more. So that's one of the challenges by putting it on Highway N, because it's at the highest point and everything drops back towards the creek. So I just want to make everybody aware that with the access situation, yes. With the sidewalks, I really thought we were doing this to help things out. There is no sidewalk on Monet at all. So if kids get off, there's at least somewhere to go where they can get off the street. So that seemed like a positive in both directions. Yes, there are entrances, but again, with the intensive, this is not an intensive use. It was set up for the 2025 land use for commercial. However, this can remain as is with a conditional use permit. There is no rezoning. So that was the whole intent, is it's a lesser use than commercial, and that's how we can go through this with the CUP process. In regards to the detention, it's not small. We're talking 60,000 cubic feet of storage for a 100-year storm. So, and that's just because you're going from woods to even the grass, there's still an increase in runoff. If you put in through woods, that water slows it down some. So that gives you a good idea very quickly how big that basin's going to be. And plus, we have to meet the design criteria for the county that is behind that, and will be reviewed and approved. So all that water is intended to go into the basin for the site and then run it to the creek. That's the intent. I mean, really, we're here to make this better. Today, there's an existing house that's been vacant for how many years? There's asbestos, there's other environmental factors. There has been environmental studies done. It's clear of anything we can move forward with it other than the asbestos side of it.
So what about staffing? And if you can do something about the trees, you might make them happy too.
Well, that's just it again.
Can you add some trees?
We can add trees, and the intent is the tree scenario on this preliminary plan is there's a tree preservation ordinance where if I remove trees, I got to replace them. And there's a specialized plan that has to be done for the county. Therefore, we will do so as part of this.
And then how many staff are you going to have?
That's one question I don't know offhand.
Facility, we probably 30, 40, but they'll rotate. So I mean.
Total employment you're talking?
Right, total.
Total employment, 30 or 40 new jobs, which is the same time.
At any given time?
10.
Any given time, 10.
Okay. And is the parking specifically just for the staff? Why don't you come up?
I want to have a question before you get on another topic regarding the water, because a lot of the people had concerns.
Yes, sir.
It's a bad situation now. If you do nothing to the property, their problem is going to continue.
Yes, sir.
When it rains. And the rain we've had in St. Louis, we've had a couple places, having flooding problems. My question is, in your mind, by re-engineering the topography and putting this on there with the water retention, do you feel comfortable you're going to improve the problem that these folks that adjoin that property are having flooding now?
I can state that, yes, we can improve it. I can add additional detention to make that even hold more water than what was there for an existing
Because
condition.
I think some of their concerns were that was going to make it worse.
Well,
They're bad now, and
we're
now
on
it's
the
gonna get worse.
downstream end. Actually, from the upstream end, there's been erosion occurring for the existing I think it's 7 or 8 foot diameter pipes that run across under Monet. So that was, this is a blue line stream, so it's documented by the Corps of Engineers. And that was one of our challenges, is because of the gully created from the water channeling and then essentially swirling in the middle of the property of the creek, I should say, then it continues to head south. That's one of our problems right there, is because it's created this big area that it's unusable, and that's about pretty close to where that drive lane is. One thing we could do, if the county was acceptable to it, is to continue to try to make the creek better by basically increasing the storage area of just the creek alone, taking the bottom of the creek, pushing that further towards Highway N to the south. Now, it's not going to go all the way to N. We still need to get a basin in there, et cetera, to where if there is a problem, I mean, we're on the downstream side of the subdivision. The problem is no matter what we do, the effects from them won't be seen, and it's going to be mainly on where's the upstream properties that's affecting, and where's that water coming from. That's really what's behind the flooding of their backyards, et cetera. That's what's behind it, which we're sort of on the downstream end. We can have a very, very, in the overall aspect of this 5-acre site, we'll have a small impact of what's already there today.
But you feel working with this and also the homeowners there, you can help this?
Yeah, we'll try to help out as much as we can.
Because it's not going to
Yes.
go away.
You're correct.
If nothing happens, they're going to continue to have this and more erosion.
Well, what we've seen is, especially with the storms, even since December, and, where we've had 7 inches of rain in 24 hours, I mean, that's a 100-year design storm. So to give some, we got more. It's a 50 to 100-year design storm, plus in July, we had a 50-year design storm. So how do you have a 100-year storm and a 50-year storm? That's one of our challenges, is we follow the design criteria set by these agencies, yet do those numbers need to be changed before long? And that's one of the challenges that we've been trying to figure out.
Thank you.
So Vance, staffing, if you're going to have 10 there, what's the normal parking? Or if you have that many people in there, are there a lot of people in parking? And is there ever a time when no one has a parking spot in one of your facilities?
Oh, no, and I don't know, 10, 12, the parking really is, you drive up into any of our other facilities and there might be 3 or 4 cars out in the front that, it really is low impact.
And then what about your medical issues that they're asking about, ambulances? Do you have many occurrences of that? That's one of their questions they're having concerns about.
That's certainly a possibility, but not many.
Okay.
No, these are typical, our approach, and it is a skilled nursing facility. It's a rehab facility. But the patients or residents here are not necessarily going to be high acuity, typical full-scale, full-range nursing home. You're going to have everything, and so there'll be more higher acuity potential emergency types of situation. Ours being a rehab facility, really very little.
Okay.
But it's possible.
Sure. Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah. Matt,
yes, sir.
One of the people suggested, would there be a way of keeping a buffer there and having the entrance on N? Would that, and essentially leaving the plan as is?
Well, I don't know if this is allowed or not as part of this CUP, but if we can reduce the setback on Highway N and move the entrance to Highway N, then that's definitely, and if MoDOT's okay with it, we can give a bigger buffer area, and you get an idea of what the size of the building is, and there's drive size. So if we push that 25, 30, 40 feet closer to Highway N, then that will help out give a bigger buffer to the residents.
Okay.
You cannot waive the setbacks.
Pardon?
Can't waive the setbacks.
Are you going to do any outpatient therapy?
Very little. It really is focused on those residents that are in there, yeah.
So there won't be
Yeah, no, it's not going to be an outpatient traffic issue.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Let's bring back before the commission. Any discussion, any questions of staff, any concerns? Do they have to bring a plan before us too after this?
No. No, the site plan review will be by by staff.
Yeah.
And we make sure it meets all the ordinance requirements and any conditions you put on it.
Right.
Again, I respectfully, somebody said they can get rehab from somebody, but I think it's a good location. I think the issues with the people, it's going to be a plus for, they're going to get their water issues. Traffic is, it's not in and out. I think it's going to be very low impact. It really lends itself to people that, you know, at Delmar Gardens, for example, they go in and break a hip or something, go in the hospital, or a shoulder injury. They have to get some physical rehabilitation, which he said is short-term. Then they go back into the nursing home facility or at their home. I know Michael made a comment, it got to, he said, slam bam, it's a quick vote on this thing. Those people here, you may not have known that, but we've had many, many meetings, and it was not just what you saw here. We had many meetings and countless hours, probably 10 or 12 hours minimum with those folks here. So this is the fourth time going through that. So what you perceive, there's a lot more than a quick vote on our part. And we volunteer for this, so. But I think it's a good location. I think the issues that these people have, traffic and everything, it's going to be a win-win-win situation.
So what restrictions can we put on it if anybody wants to do it?
Well, you could add additional setbacks.
Right.
The building would have to have a 50-foot setback from all property lines.
Right.
The parking would probably require a 35-foot setback from the right-of-ways. The north property line, the vegetated buffer is the governing setback along that north property line. And I think everything, uses like this, like a parking setback from an adjacent residential is 25 or 50 feet. I'd have to look that up. But the parking that they are proposing is within the ordinance requirements.
Okay. And then they had a couple of residents were worried about the lights. Can you tell them what the light ordinance are?
The maximum height of lighting would be 20 feet. And it has to be downcast. There can't be more than 0.1 foot candles at the property lines. And a full moon, I think someone told me, is like 0.8 foot candles.
Okay.
Could we put a condition that the entrance be off Highway N?
Um,
Or off the service road, I mean, not Highway N.
Well, okay, MoDOT being the state, they rank higher than us.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we cannot dictate to MoDOT. I don't know what MoDOT's, I don't think we received comment from MoDOT. So, I mean, it's MoDOT's jurisdiction on that entrance. So we can't say, I mean, I guess you could say that they have to have an entrance, but then if MoDOT says no entrance, then we've got troubles.
Yeah, but, and so N's changing too, the
Well,
way it is.
I can't speak for MoDOT.
Yeah.
I mean,
MoDOT has
we've had
plans for
cases
that.
like this where MoDOT has said that they want the entrances off the side street because then we
Yeah.
have a safe access, and because that side street is where it is because of
Sure.
safe access.
Yep,
so.
I understand. Okay. Any other questions of staff or discussion up here? I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Griffin, need a second? Mr. Leonard?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Cleary?
Yes.
Mr. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm votes yes. Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Sedley?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 9-0. And again, this comes up before the county council on, if I can find my notes.
September 12th.
Would be September 12th. So you have a chance to go before county council again on those, and they have 2 votes on that. So please make sure you go to that, and 3 speakers too, just so you know. There's just nobody's happy about development anymore. So there's a whole anger in the United States of America about everything. It doesn't matter what it is. Someone doesn't cut their grass right. They don't put stripes in the yard properly. They get yelled at. It's ridiculous. So guys, you need to clear the room. I'm sorry. We got another thing before us. Thank you. Yeah, well, they have their street right there. You can see the impact. You got it. No. Sure, yeah. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move forward. We have another thing before this commission. It's the preliminary plat for Willow Creek. It's PRE 16-06. The engineer is Clasper Professional Services Incorporated. The developer is MLM Homes, LLC 2. The property owners, Mark L. Mathis and Mary J. Mathis. The property zoning is R3B, PUD, FW, FF. Multiple family residential district with a planned unit development floodway and floodway fringe overlay districts. The lots are 2 and the area is 1.6 acres. It's located on the east side of Willow Creek Court, north and east of Dingledine Road, and it's in Council District 7. Staff? I don't think, is there anybody here even presented on it? That's
It doesn't
very
look like
strange.
it, yeah. That's all right, we can,
Well, there's somebody in the audience. Anybody want to come up and protest? That's what seems to be the trend. Well, I mean, oh, well, we'll talk about that
okay.
after the meeting. So
For
go
the
ahead.
plat.
Yeah.
This is a subdivision. It was originally platted as 4 lots. They re-subdivided it and made it fewer lots, and then vacated the street, and now they want to split one of the lots into 2 lots, so that caused the need for the re-subdivision plat. They have requested a couple variances on the plat, and basically the gist is, since they vacated the road, well, we have a requirement that when you have a subdivision plat, it has to have a road off the county right away. So they have requested a variance to that requirement. So they would use the existing street that was there, but it would just be an easement of access to serve the lots of the subdivision. We also have a requirement that all area in the floodway be platted in common ground. This requirement came after this original plat was recorded. The people on the other side of the street to the north of these lots, they're all in another phase of the original subdivision, and they have floodway on their properties because they were platted before we had the requirement that floodway had to be in common ground. So they've requested a waiver to that requirement. They've also requested a waiver that for the vegetated buffer. In subdivisions, we require the vegetated buffer, if it's small lot subdivision, be within common ground. And they have requested a variance to that, basically for the same reason, because the lots just across the creek, they aren't encumbered with that same requirement.
Aren't those lots at a higher elevation?
Maybe a little. I mean, those lots are those lots across the creek are in the floodplain. The houses may not be, but the lots are. And actually, they're just proposing to build 1 house, and this house would be an area of the lot that's not in the floodplain, that's elevated up.
Gotcha.
I'm looking at the plan, just flipping it back from last month that we tabled. I see where what you have is Lot A has increased in that courtyard. Where are they, the plat that was tabled last meeting, they had a proposed house on the
The proposed house would be on Lot B.
Lot B.
Right here, on
I
Lot B.
apologize.
No, no,
I'm just trying to discern what the difference was from when it was tabled. So the house is going to go up in Lot B? Yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
which was
Yeah,
the same thing we had last?
The tabling came from the fact that they could not get all their required, all of the things that we sent in the comment letter. They could not get all of those back to us in the time that we needed it back to go on the last meeting. Their plans haven't changed drastically, but yeah, they had to get their ducks in a row to apply for the variances and all of those things.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
this aerial picture, and knowing that the lot lines are probably not absolutely accurate, but is there sufficient setback space between those two houses if when you put this new lot line in there?
Yeah, well, between the existing two houses, that lot line's already there.
Okay, so they're good to go on those two houses?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because those houses only had to be 14 feet apart.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So in all, there's just going to be the two houses on the court, right?
No, they're going to add a.
Oh, they're going to add one more?
They're adding a.
There's already two there.
yeah,
I mean, I'm
third
sorry,
house.
so they're adding one more, okay. yeah.
Right, right.
All right. Any other questions? Need a motion to?
Outside the variances, they meet all the staff requirements, and we did receive letters.
You did have letters.
Well, the letters are so noted.
Thank you. Motion to approve, please.
Second.
Mr. Sedley, Mr. Griffin. What? Are you confused or something?
Well, are we,
Of preliminary plat?
Yeah,
And
this-
it doesn't, this is it, right? It doesn't even go
No,
for,
because there are
Yeah.
variances involved. You've got to make a recommendation
Oh.
to this to the county council.
that was going to be my question, are we approving the variances?
Yeah, that's
You're making a recommendation.
to council to approve the variances if
to-
you go on with it.
Right, right.
so I'm confused to what
What
the
you-
difference is.
You're not approving.
The preliminary plat?
Yeah, let me try to say this with some degree of clarity. You're doing your typical recommending.
Okay.
The variances would go up with whatever recommendation.
I gotcha.
You
Okay.
have. You're not the decision-making body, you're just giving your customary recommendation. Now, if you didn't have variances
Then
involved.
be done.
You'd be the decision-making body. But
Okay.
that's not the case for this particular.
You guys understand that?
So if the motion is for the plat as it's before you, that is recommending approval of the variances, because the plat you have before you shows the variances on it.
Sure. Okay.
That's what I'll make a motion for approval.
And I need a second on that then. Second. Okay. Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Cleary?
Yes.
Mr. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm? Yes. And Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Setley?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Okay, that one passes too. Other business, is there any other business? Seeing none, I need approval of the minutes from the July 20th, 2016 regular meeting. I have a motion, can I get a second? All in favor, signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Approved? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Wow, what a move.